The moon hung low that night, bleeding silver across the forest floor. I remember the sound of my own heartbeat, frantic, desperate, like drums announcing my final hour. Behind me, the pack closed in. Their eyes were not eyes anymore. They were hunger made flesh, crimson and wild, teeth gleaming in the darkness like promises of death. I had nowhere left to run. My feet stumbled over roots that seemed to reach for me, as if the earth itself wanted to claim what little remained of my life. I was not supposed to be there. A princess does not belong in the wilderness, torn and bleeding, her silver gown shredded by thorns and betrayal, but the trail had brought me here. My own blood, the cousin I had trusted, the council that had smiled while sharpening their knives behind closed doors. They had stripped me of my title, my magic, my name, and then they had thrown me to the wolves, literally. The first wolf lunged. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end, but the end did not come. Instead, there was a sound like thunder splitting the sky, a roar that shook the trees and sent birds screaming into the night. When I opened my eyes, he stood between me and death, massive, unyielding, his silhouette carved from moonlight and shadow, his presence so absolute that even the bloodthirsty pack hesitated. For a moment, the forest held its breath. He was the Alpha Lord. I had heard whispers of him in the halls of my castle stories told in hushed voices. Tales of a man who was more than a man, who commanded not just wolves but the very essence of wildness itself. They said he had made a pact with something ancient, something that lived in the spaces between life and death. They said he could not die. They said he could not love. But as he turned to look at me, his eyes golden, fierce, infinite, held something I had not expected, recognition. As if he had been waiting for me his entire life. "Run," he said, his voice low and edged with danger, but I could not run. My legs had abandoned me, trembling beneath the weight of everything I had lost. So instead, I watched as he moved. It was not a fight, it was annihilation. The wolves that had hunted me, that had tasted my fear, now cowered before him. Some fled, others fell. And when silence finally returned to the forest, he stood alone, breathing hard, his hands stained with the cost of my salvation. He approached me slowly, as if I were the dangerous one. And perhaps I was, because when he knelt before me, when his fingers brushed the wound on my shoulder with a gentleness that contradicted everything about him, I felt it. The pull, the inevitable gravity between us, like twin stars destined to collide. "You're bleeding," he said. "You saved me," I whispered. His jaw tightened. I did. Why? For a long moment, he did not answer. His hand remained on my shoulder, warm despite the cold night air. When he finally spoke, his words were weighted with something heavier than gratitude, darker than duty. "Because you belong to me now." Those words should have frightened me, but in the ruins of my old life, and the ashes of everything I had been, they sounded almost like hope. He carried me that night, through the forests, past streams that whispered secrets, under trees that bowed as if in reverence. His stronghold rose from the mountainside like a crown of stone and shadow, ancient and impenetrable. Inside, fires burned in hearths carved from rock older than kingdoms. Tapestries depicted battles between creatures I did not recognize, wars fought under moons that no longer rose. He laid me on a bed softer than anything I had known in my palace. A healer came, an old woman with eyes like winter and hands that glowed faintly as she worked. She said nothing, but her gaze moved between the Alpha Lord and me with something that looked like pity. When she left, he remained. Standing by the window, silhouetted against the moonlight, he looked less like a man and more like a myth made real. "What did you mean?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "When you said I belonged to you?" He turned, and in his eyes I saw centuries. "There is a bond," he said slowly, as if choosing each word with care. Old magic. Older than your kingdom, older than my curse. When I saved you, it was sealed. What kind of bond? The kind that cannot be broken, not by death, not by distance, not by will. He moved closer, and I felt the air shift around him, charged with power barely contained. You will feel what I feel, know what I know. And in time, he paused, his gaze dropping to where my hand rested against my chest, over my racing heart. You will give me what I need to break my curse. My love, I whispered. His smile was bitter. Your soul. The words hung between us like a blade. I should have recoiled, should have fought. But the healer's magic had left me weak, and beneath that weakness, something else stirred. Curiosity, defiance, and beneath even that, something I dared not name. And if I refuse? You cannot. His voice was not cruel, but it was absolute. The bond is already forged. You are mine, princess. And I am yours, whether you wish it or not. If this moment touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. It helps us bring more stories like this one. The days that followed were strange and dreamlike. I healed slowly under the care of the Alpha Lord's household, a collection of beings both human and not, each carrying their own scars, their own stories of salvation and servitude. They treated me with respect, but also with distance, as if I were something fragile and dangerous at once. He came to me each evening. At first, he said little, simply sitting by the fire in my chambers, watching the flames as if they held answers to questions he would not speak aloud. But gradually, the silence between us filled with words. He told me of his curse, how he had been a lord once, fully human, ruling lands that stretched beyond the horizon, how he had sought power to protect his people, and in seeking it, had struck a bargain with a being that existed beyond the veil of the mortal world. The power had come, vast and terrible, but so had the price. I cannot die, he said one night, his voice hollow, but I cannot truly live either. Each full moon, the beast inside me grows stronger. One day, it will consume what remains of my humanity, unless unless you break the curse, I finished. He nodded. The bargain requires a soul freely given, not taken by force, not won by manipulation. It must be offered willingly from one who loves me despite knowing what I am. That's why you saved me, I said, understanding dawning cold and clear. You need me, yes. He met my eyes without flinching. But that does not make your salvation any less real, or my gratitude any less genuine. I should have hated him for his honesty. Instead, I found myself drawn to it. In a life built on pretty lies and courtly deceptions, his brutal truth felt almost like kindness. What if I never love you? I asked. His smile was sad. Then I remain as I am, forever, and you remain bound to me until one of us finds a way to sever what cannot be severed. A prisoner, a companion, he corrected gently. I will not force your affection, princess, but I will ask for your time, your presence, the chance to prove that I am more than the monster they say I am. And so, an agreement formed between us, fragile, tenuous, built on necessity rather than desire, but it was a beginning. The weeks passed, and the stronghold became less a prison and more a refuge. I discovered libraries filled with books my kingdom had banned, containing knowledge of magic they feared. I learned that my powers, the gifts tied to moonlight and prophecy that my family had tried to suppress, were not abominations here. They were revered. The Alpha Lord himself taught me. In the courtyard beneath stars that seemed close enough to touch, he showed me how to channel the light that lived in my blood, how to weave it into shields and weapons, how to listen to the whispers of destiny that had always frightened me before. You are powerful, he said one night, watching as I summoned moonlight into my palms, shaping it like clay. More than you know. Your family feared you because they could not control you. Is that why you don't fear me? I asked. He stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. I don't fear you because I see you. Not the crown you wore or the title they stole. You, the woman who survived when she should have died. The mage who burns brighter than any moon. His words settled into my chest, warm and unsettling. And for the first time since he had saved me, I wondered if the bond between us was not entirely magic. If perhaps some part of it was simply us, but trust is not built in weeks. And love is not born from necessity. One evening, I discovered him in his war room, bent over maps and letters, his expression darker than I had ever seen it. When I asked what troubled him, he hesitated. Then slowly he told me. Your cousin, he said. The one who betrayed you. He has declared war on my lands. He claims I kidnapped you, that I'm holding you against your will. Fury rose in me, hot and sharp. Let me write to him. Let me tell him the truth. He would not believe you. Or he would claim I forced your words. The Alpha Lord's hands clenched into fists. He wants an excuse to invade, to take what I have built. You are merely the justification he needed. Then I will fight, I said. I will stand with you. He looked at me then, truly looked at me, and I saw something shift in his eyes. Surprise, gratitude, and beneath it all, something that looked dangerously close to hope. You would fight beside me, against your own blood? He stopped eating my blood when he threw me to the wolves, I said. You are the one who saved me. You are the one who sees me. If that is not family, then I do not know what is. For a moment, I thought he might embrace me. Instead, he simply nodded, his throat working as if around words too heavy to speak. Then we prepare for war, he said quietly. Together, tell me in the comments what part of their story moved you the most. Your words mean more than you know. The night before the battle, I could not sleep. I wandered the stronghold's ramparts, watching the valley below where my cousin's army camped, their fires like fallen stars scattered across the earth. Tomorrow, blood would spill. Tomorrow, everything might end. You should rest. His voice came from behind me, soft as shadow. So should you, I replied without turning. He joined me at the edge, and for a while we stood in silence, shoulder to shoulder, watching the enemy that would come with dawn. I am afraid, I admitted finally. Not of dying, but of failing. Of not being strong enough when you need me. You are already stronger than you know, he said. Then, after a pause, I am afraid too. I turned to him, surprised. You, the Alpha Lord who cannot die? I am afraid of losing you. The words were barely a whisper, but they struck me with the force of a shout. The bond between us, it has changed. It is no longer just magic binding us. It is ... He struggled, his jaw tight. It is more. My heart hammered against my ribs. What are you saying? He faced me fully, and in the moonlight, he looked almost vulnerable. I am saying that I did not expect this. You. The way I wait for your footsteps each evening. The way your laughter has become the only sound in this fortress that does not echo with loneliness. I am saying that somewhere between saving you and teaching you, I stopped seeing you as a means to break my curse, and started seeing you as ... everything. The air between us crackled with tension, with possibility, with danger. Is this the bond speaking? I asked, needing to know. Or is this you? I do not know anymore, he admitted. Perhaps there is no difference. Perhaps the bond exists because this was always meant to be. I reached up, my fingers trembling as they touched his face. He closed his eyes as if my touch pained him. I feel it too, I whispered. This pull between us, this impossible thing, I tried to resist it. Tried to tell myself it was only magic. But magic does not make my breath catch when you enter a room. Magic does not make me want to know every scar on your soul. His hand covered mine, pressing it more firmly against his cheek. If we do this, he said, his voice rough, if we allow this to become real, there is no going back. The bond will deepen. You will be tied to me in ways that go beyond any curse. I know. You could still be free. After the curse breaks, if it breaks, you could return to your life. What life? I asked. The one where I was a pawn in someone else's game? Where my power was feared and my heart was never my own? That is not life. This, I gestured to the space between us, to the stronghold, to everything we had built in these strange months together. This is the first time I have ever felt truly alive. He kissed me then, not gently, not tentatively, but with the force of everything he had been holding back, everything we had both denied. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I melted into him, tasting moonlight and destiny and the sweet inevitability of us. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Whatever happens tomorrow, he said, know that you have already saved me. Not from the curse, from the emptiness. You have given me something to fight for beyond duty, beyond survival. You have given me hope. Then we will win, I said fiercely. Because I am not done with you yet. We have a lifetime ahead of us, Alpha Lord, and I intend to claim every moment of it. He smiled, truly smiled, and for the first time since I had known him, he looked almost at peace. But peace, I would learn, is always temporary. The battle came with the dawn, brutal and unforgiving. My cousin's forces outnumbered ours 3-1, but we had magic, strategy, and something they lacked, absolute unity of purpose. I fought beside the Alpha Lord, our powers weaving together like threads in a tapestry, his strength amplifying my light, my magic guiding his strikes. For hours, we held them back. For hours, it seemed we might actually win. Then I saw her, standing at the edge of the battlefield, watching with eyes that held ancient malice, the being who had cursed him, the entity beyond the veil. She had come, drawn by the bond between us, by the threat we posed to her carefully laid plans. The bargain was clear, she said, her voice carrying across the chaos as if we stood alone in an empty room. A soul freely given, but I see now that she loves you, which means ... double quotes, she smiled, cruel and knowing. She will never give up her soul to save you. Love makes people selfish. It makes them cling. She will choose you over the cure, and you, Alpha Lord, will remain mine forever. Horror washed through me as I understood. The curse was designed to be unbreakable, because anyone who loved him enough to give their soul would also love him too much to leave him. A must. I looked at the Alpha Lord, saw the devastation in his eyes as he reached the same conclusion. We could love each other. We could have this beautiful, impossible thing, but we could never free each other. No, he said, reading my thoughts through the bond. To not even consider it, but I was already moving. Already reaching for the deepest parts of my magic, the places where moonlight met mortality, where power met sacrifice. I love you, I said, my voice carrying across the battlefield as I began to weave the spell that would end everything. I love you enough to let you go, enough to give you freedom, even if it costs me everything. Stop. He lunged for me, but my magic held him back, gentle but unyielding. You do not have to do this. Yes, I do. Tears streamed down my face as the spell built around me, shimmering and terrible, because this is what love is. Not possession, not need, but choice, and I choose your freedom. I choose your life, even if it means losing mine, the entity's smile faltered. No, this is not how. The bargain was for a soul freely given, I interrupted, my voice growing stronger as the magic swelled. You never specified it had to be given in exchange for love returned. only that it had to be given by one who loved him. And I do. God's help me, I do. Light exploded from me, brilliant and blinding. I felt my soul begin to unravel, felt it reaching toward the curse, wrapping around it, unmaking it thread by thread. It should have hurt, perhaps it did, but all I could feel was love. All I could see was him, and then darkness. If you believe love can conquer destiny, tap that like button and join our family beneath the moonlight. I woke to moonlight. Not the harsh silver of battle, but something softer, warmer. It took me a moment to realize I was not dead. Another moment to understand that I was lying in the Alpha Lord's arms, his face buried in my hair, his shoulders shaking with the force of his grief. "I am here," I whispered. He went absolutely still. Then slowly, he pulled back to look at me, his eyes red, his expression shattered. "How?" he breathed. "You should be gone?" I smiled weakly. I felt myself fading, felt my soul becoming part of the spell. But then ... I reached up to touch his chest, where his heart beat strong and steady. I felt you, the bond. It would not let me go. It pulled me back. Understanding dawned in his eyes. The bond, it is not one way. I gave you my soul too, without even realizing it. Every moment we spent together, every word, every touch, I was offering myself to you just as surely as you offered yourself to me. So when I tried to sacrifice myself ... double, I began. The bond would not allow it, he finished, because we already belong to each other, completely. There is no his and hers anymore. Only ours, I laughed, the sound somewhere between joy and disbelief. So the curse? Broken. He cupped my face in his hands as if I were something precious and fragile. You broke it, not by giving up your soul, but by proving that love does not have to be selfish, that it can be strong enough to choose sacrifice. The entity's power relied on the assumption that true love is always possessive. You proved her wrong. We proved her wrong, I corrected, because you let me go. Even though it destroyed you, it did destroy me, he admitted. For a few moments, while I thought you were gone, I understood what it means to be truly cursed. Not by magic, but by loss. I pulled him down to me, kissing him with everything I had left. He responded with a desperation that spoke of how close we had come to losing each other, how precious every moment now was. When we finally broke apart, the sun was rising, painting the battlefield in gold and crimson. The war was over. My cousin had fled when the entity vanished, his forces scattering without their supernatural support. The stronghold still stood. We still stood. What now? I asked. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Now we live. Truly live. Without curses or bargains or battles, just ... us. Us, I repeated, savoring the word. I liked the sound of that. The months that followed were not perfect. We both carried scars, his from centuries of loneliness, mine from betrayal and exile. There were nights when he woke gasping, still feeling the beast that was no longer there. Mornings when I looked in the mirror and saw not a princess, but a woman who had died and been reborn. But there was also laughter, joy, the slow, steady building of a life that belonged entirely to us. We rebuilt the stronghold together, opening its doors to others who had nowhere else to go, the lost, the betrayed, the magical. It became a haven, a home. I learned that love is not the grand gesture alone. It is also the quiet moments. The way he braided my hair each morning, his fingers gentle and patient. The way I sat with him in the library each evening, reading aloud while he worked through correspondence. The way we moved around each other like twin moons in perfect orbit, separate but always connected. One night, exactly a year after he had saved me, we stood together on the ramparts again. The same place where I had first admitted I loved him. But everything was different now. The valley below was no longer filled with enemy fires, but with the lights of the village that had grown around our stronghold people who had come seeking safety and found family instead. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly, "giving up your old life? Your crown?" I leaned into him, feeling his arm wrap around my waist, solid and sure. That was never my life. It was a role I played. This, I gestured to the stronghold, to the village, to the moon hanging low and silver above us. This is my life. "You are my life, and you are mine," he said. "My soul, my salvation, my everything." "That is quite a lot of responsibility for one person," I teased. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Then it is fortunate you are quite a lot of person." I turned in his arms, looking up at him. Even now he took my breath away. Not because of his power or his beauty, but because of how he looked at me. As if I were the moon itself, necessary and eternal. "I want to tell you something," I said. "Something I have learned." "What is that, my love?" "That destiny is not something that happens to us. It is something we make. We could have let the curse define us. We could have let fear or duty or obligation shape our choices, but we did not. We chose each other. Every day, in 100 small ways, we chose each other. And that is more powerful than any magic." He kissed my forehead, tender and reverent. "You are right. And I choose you again now, and will choose you every day for the rest of my very long, formerly cursed life." "Well, that is convenient," I said, grinning. "Because I'd plan on being very demanding." I would expect nothing less from a mage princess who once told off an ancient entity. We stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other and the moonlight, watching our home sleep peacefully below. The past was behind us, the betrayals, the battles, the curses. The future stretched ahead, unknown but no longer frightening, because we would face it together. Two souls, once broken, now whole. Not because we completed each other, but because we had chosen to build something new from our shattered pieces. Something stronger, something beautiful, something worth dying for. And more importantly, something worth living for. As the moon climbed higher, I whispered against his chest, "Thank you." "For what?" he asked. "For saving me, for seeing me, for loving me even when it was hard, for letting me love you back." He held me tighter. "Thank you for teaching me that I was worth saving, that I was more than my curse, that I could be ... happy." "Are you?" I asked. "Happy?" He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. And in his gaze, I saw everything we had been through, everything we had overcome, and everything we still had ahead of us. I saw love without conditions, hope without limits. A future written not by destiny, but by choice. "Yes," he said simply. "For the first time in centuries, I am truly, completely happy." I smiled, feeling the bond between us hum with contentment, with joy, with the absolute rightness of this moment. "Then so am I," and as we kissed beneath the watching moon, I knew that this was not an ending. It was a beginning. The first page of a story we would write together, one day, one choice, one moment at a time. A story of love that conquered destiny, of souls that refused to be separate, of two people who saved each other not through grand sacrifices, but through the simple, revolutionary act of choosing to stay, to fight, to hope, to love. Always, endlessly, impossibly to love. Thank you for being part of this journey beneath the moonlight. Stories like this exist because of you, your hearts, your hopes, your belief that love can conquer even the darkest curses. If this tale touched something within you, if it reminded you that we all have the power to choose our destinies, then please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to join our family of dreamers and believers, and let us know in the comments what moment resonated with your soul. Until the next story finds us, remember, You are never too broken to be whole again. You are never too lost to be found. And you are never too far from love to be saved by it. The moon is always watching, and so are we. See you in the next tale.